All right, welcome into the Clear as Mud. We're doing a non-live episode, I guess you would call it. This is going to be strictly audio. We're going to do one or two of these, kind of see how you guys like them or not. We're going to try to maybe go back and do retro, look at some older stuff, open up the time vaults, if you will, cover things maybe that aren't necessarily mainstream topics or stuff that could be current as well, but not necessarily things that are like really pressing. And so anyway, today I'm joined by Seth
Ooh.
and JiJiLovesHearts.
Hey, hey.
And so what we're going to do today is because in a previous live show, Gigi shared with Seth and I that she did not know who Colossal is crazy
I envy
was
her.
or is. Yeah, you and Colossal kind of have a love-hate type relationship. Um, but Colossal's Crazy is a creator who rose to notoriety, fame, if you will, back in 2015, 2016 was probably where he really started, gaining momentum, traction. I first learned of Colossal's Crazy when I came across one of his, for whatever reason, one of his videos was recommended to me, algorithms, right? And it was him going into, I don't remember what game it was, but it was some gameplay. But he was going into the lobbies and just kind of like messing with people. One of the things that you're going to notice, Gigi, is Colossal has a very, would you say, Seth, unique?
Distinct is what I
It's
would
very,
say.
yes, it's a very distinct voice. When you hear it, you say, oh, that's Colossal. He set his eyes on Keemstar, or as he calls him, DJ Killer Keemstar. He called him the gnome. He called him a rat. He really initially got underneath Keem's skin and really irritated the ever living fire out of him. But Keem decided to, in 20, was it 2017, I guess? Yeah, probably 2017. I think it was when the podcast started. He formed a podcast with him and Tommy C. And the name of this podcast was the Baited Podcast. Now, during this time, Colossal also put out a couple of videos. Colossal put out a video in that time frame too, which is really, I think, relevant right now, which is called FouseyTube Alternate Reality. If you've never watched it, I would highly recommend it. Another real big video that he did that was really of notoriety was the Lion Maker interview. And Lion Maker, of course, is very, very notorious. But we're not here about Lion Maker. We're not here about FouseyTube. Today, we're going to be talking about the very last baited podcast that was ever publicly released. And this podcast is what caused the collapse of this. I thought it was a great thing. I love all the people that was there. But anyway, this was a interview that they did with a very
Controversial
person back then by the name of Zoe Berger. Are you familiar? Do you know who Zoe Berger is?
I have no idea, but judging by the image being used, she has something actually to do with a burger, maybe.
That's a good guess. No. Zoe Berger got famous off of doing like sort of gaming content centered around using her body for a general male audience.
Yeah.
In what
So
way?
She would
Oh,
twerk and stuff
okay.
during
S-
gameplay.
Yeah. So nowadays, right? It's nothing for someone like Amaranth or some of these other streamers on Twitch, or whatever, like the hot tub streamer Meta, things like that, right? Where they'll wear like um, we'll say revealing clothes, especially upstairs, revealing their bosom, right, their breast and stuff.
Let's just say Zoe Burger walked so these women could run. Okay.
Exactly. What she did was she would play Call of Duty on Twitch. This was on Twitch. She'd do Call of Duty, and every time that she got a kill on Call of Duty, I think it was either kill or she won the round. I can't remember what the trigger was. But then she would get up and just twerk. It actually got her banned off of Twitch. In comparison to what's going on Twitch these days, it was extremely mild.
Yeah.
I mean, extremely mild.
And before we watch this, I want to give the context that what happened here was that at the time, Drama Alert was at its peak, where
Yes.
Keemstar would upload videos pretty much every day, every second day. And apparently he released a video, or at least tweeted something, where he insinuated that because she has a younger male audience, that she was a pedophile.
Yes.
Or pedophile adjacent.
Yes. He made the accusation that because her content was more adult centered or more adult orientated, that because she has such a young audience base, that his analogy was that if a guy was doing this with female fans, he would be called a so why would not the same measurement be levied against her? And started referring to her, and so they started having this Twitter beef back and forth, right? And so they brought Zoe onto the show. And then this is what occurs. So take it away there.
Let's give it a listen.
Yeah.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Baited Podcast. I'm your host, Colossal is Crazy, and we're joined here once again by the infamous, the legendary DJ Killer Keemstar.
What up, world?
And also Tommy C.
Hey, what's happening, everybody?
And special guest for you today, first female guest on the show, Zoe Burger.
And what an honor! What an honor! What a perfect candidate for female rights and female in general. What a great representative.
I'm not sure about that. You've been called but also now I'm not sure I agree with. But Keemstar has some other ideas about that. What do you think, Keemstar?
Well, I mean, okay, listen. First of all, a lot of people were saying you called Zoe Burger. I never called her a. What I did is I brought up the question: if Zoe Burger was a man, wouldn't we all be calling her a? And me bringing up the question of whether or not you are a was because at the time there was nothing going on, and it's my job to be an entertainer.
Amen. And that's why I went back on there, and I was like, oh, it's because I was moaning for scarce. It was a shout out to myself to go look at my other video. Responding to your shout out, we all get it.
I don't really get it.
Okay, so pause for a second there.
Yes.
All right, so Gigi, now that you've kind of heard them, you've heard Colossal speak and so forth, and you kind of heard their own introduction to all this stuff. What do you think? Just your initial gut reaction to this. What do you think?
Well, so I'm having trouble remembering what 2016 Keemstar was like, because I feel like I'm remembering that he sounded really slimy, which is why I never watched Drama Alert. Like he just sounds like a not even a used car salesman on like Power 105. You know what I mean? Like he's trying to sell you nothing somehow. And which I would say is something Keemstar is good at. As far as her, I don't think I've heard enough of her to understand exactly what's going on there. But also, I question anybody who seems so okay with someone even inferring if they're a pedophile for any reason, much less for clout reasons. That seems very sus.
I think we should go on here for a little bit, so you can get the context of why they thought this was okay.
Okay.
For entertainment purposes.
And
Well, I
I was
didn't call
willing
her a
to be a friend with him. It's no big deal.
You know,
I didn't call her.
my best friend called it dead on Dave. He said this is a work, and that's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like you guys.
Well,
worked
it was quite
But
brilliant,
it's not
wasn't
gonna
it,
stop
Zoe?
people. It was amazing.
I don't get
And we
it.
danced, and it was perfect. And we stopped.
So see, that's the crux of it. Okay, it's that she and Keemstar are alleging that they did this as like a kind of planned situation.
And this is believed.
At the time, yes.
At the time,
Yeah.
this podcast kind of was the moment that people start to question it, because there are moments in this podcast where
Yeah.
they make it seem like it was like planned out, and then there are moments where they say things that made it seem like it's not planned out. So it was sort of, it was believed, and then this podcast came out, and then people started questioning the narrative.
Okay.
See, what I did is I left enough
Legally
room.
sound.
I left enough meat on the bone for you to insinuate that I was calling her.
Get
You know,
in.
I'm so
field
mad at
in a smarter
myself
person.
because my partner said he didn't want to take the narrative on my show about Keem calling her because he thought the whole thing was a work between you two. I'm utterly embarrassed. Good job, guys.
I'm sorry. Why is that a good job?
But why is that bad though?
I like stuff like that.
But
Well,
you,
it's
you
good to have a
bandied
conversation.
around the word.
No, I don't think
A
it's
criminal
necessarily
accusation,
right.
yes.
So you're
But we're
making a
also
joke
businessmen.
of calling someone and I'm very surprised that Keemstar has done this of all people with the false paedophile allegations that he's brought up in the past.
Well,
I'm
let me respond to Clown. Let me respond to the Clown. You said that we're making a joke out of the thing, but we weren't, right? Because what I found
But it was
is
a troll,
genuine.
Keemstar.
Yeah, but it was a bit of a troll. But it was for I'm an entertainer. It's my job to entertain people, and nothing was going on at the time. So I
Keyword.
created a question, right? A question that would cause people to say, one, Zoe Berger is a pedo, or two, Zoe Berger isn't doing anything wrong. And that drives conversation, that drives debate, and that entertains boring people worldwide for hours. And it
This
did
is
just that.
literally the
The end
most
drops the
stupid
mic.
thing I've ever heard. Look, I didn't want to defend you because I personally don't like your content, and I think you're just a bit of a and I think you can self-deprecate all you want, but at the end of the day, a whore is a but here's the thing. You brought more attention to it by basically trivializing being called a like, this is a new low, Zoe, even for you. Even for you. Like, we were willing to defend you when we don't even really like you that much. And Keemstar has been a part of that. And I'm
But
very
Clown,
surprised by it.
But
to be
Clown, listen.
Can I respond to it first, Keen? Because you
But-
guys are closer.
So what do you guys think of that whole debate? Because I think there's some truth to it, right? Because have we not seen the word being like thrown around way more nowadays and way more leniently than we did back in 2016?
Yeah, I'm surprised. Yeah, I'm surprised that they don't see that. I don't even see how he can say that he left room for the implication to be made, given how easy it is for people to make that accusation these days. Like, it feels very strange.
Yeah, the thing of it is I don't think any of the people involved in this podcast at the time had enough forethought to think that trivializing something as serious as the label being a pedophile, trivializing it and just making it into a joke. I don't I won't give them benefit of the doubt, and I don't think that they understood. Well, all of them except for Clown. Clown understood because Clown is very upset about this. You really haven't heard it yet, but you can kind of start. You can if you listen up to this. Excuse me. Clown's tone is not his more just whimsical or cynical. He's very he's serious about this. This is something that really was upsetting to him. But as far the rest of them, Zoe and primarily Zoe and Keem, I think they set my personal, and I've said this from day one when I heard this episode released, that they set into motion a cascade of events that nowadays people call and throw that around the word people and make those type, and it's almost like back in the day of calling somebody an idiot or stupid or something like that. They watered down the meaning so much in doing this that nowadays it doesn't really, if you call someone
it doesn't hold the
it doesn't mean
same
anything
strength
anymore.
if you they took away strength to
No,
a word
it does not.
that should hold more value.
Yeah, exactly. So
It does. Yeah, I think that's what seems really odd to me. Like even before she spoke more, I was already like, why would anyone be okay with being even inferred to be, especially given how sometimes you do nothing and get that label and it follows you forever and you're stuck in everything you do having to answer for that. From many people have said this, right?
I mean, yeah, it wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't be fair to say that they did this, right? Like, that they were the sole cause for this shift in how the online world perceives the word. But I think it's fair to say that they added to it, and it was also part of the beginning. I don't think they started
I
it
think
per
they
se.
started it. I think. Oh, I do. 100%. I believe that it's kind of like a snowball, right? So they started, they had, it was a little bitty thing that they started rolling down a hill, right? Here, it was not such a big deal, right? It was just, whatever, right? It was, quote, for online drama. It was manufactured drama. It was for, and she was laughing about it. And he was laughing about it because, quote, they were in the DMs about all this, right? But the problem is that snowball ran down the hill to where now the word means
I think
absolutely
another part
nothing
of it
anymore,
though is like
right? People,
you know how like the way our society has shifted in like a more liberal side, especially online, and the threshold for being considered a pedophile has also changed, right? So people who just simply message people who are 1 or 2 years younger, or people who've accidentally messaged someone they didn't really know was of like underage, are also considered pedophiles. When this happened, that shift into the liberal online space hadn't happened quite as much. And that's, for me, that's probably the majority of the change in the word, because now everyone can be considered a pedophile. But I also think that from the other side, this also had an effect on it.
Yeah.
Well,
But like I still go ahead. I'm sorry, Gigi.
I was just gonna say, I see how you're both like saying that this was the start of it, or it wasn't, but it kind of feels like, especially given how calculated Keemstar is, if this was intentional, and I don't know that I think that it was, it honestly sounds like a bunch of bullshit to me already. But let's say that they did quote unquote plan it. There must have been some indication to Keem that somehow this would be like received decently enough. So I think Seth is right that this kind of existed and it was pulled from like the fringes into a much more common mainstream thing.
Friends, and I want to have an opportunity to kind of feel back what he said, because what he said is very powerful and very poignant. So here's how I respond to that, Colossal. And I get it. But the problem is, you are talking about ethics and morality. You are talking about having a kind of ethics to your work that I abandon and that I am not able to have. That's why I'm grasping. I understand I took costs with this. I knew that. Every day when someone tells me to kill myself because I'm a whore,
ethics,
I
Zoe.
get
Zoe,
it.
they're sacrificing some ethics, but I think you've really kind of crossed the line on this one.
I know.
So this is, to me, this is like the only moment where I kind of understand where Zoe's coming from. Because I will admit, throughout this whole podcast, to me, she came off as like very vapid and kind of like trying to sound like smarter than she was. And to me, she didn't come off great. But she has the point here that the reason why they have such a hard time like understanding where Colossal is coming from is because the ethics and the morals, which are subjective in most cases, don't line up for both of them. She does not care about his moral qualms with what they're doing because she doesn't have the same set of morals. I think it's interesting to me that that Oliver didn't really understand that during this podcast, because that's just kind of like a universal fact, and it's like he's basically like Sisyphus right now, pushing up a boulder. There's no way he's gonna get anything out of this. It's just gonna be an endless task, because they'll never agree to his set of morals if they don't have it.
So are you, that feels like, are you saying they actually don't have it? Because I feel like it's hard to believe that they don't see any problem actually with what they did, because why would it be?
You can be able to see why other people have moral qualms with it without actually having it yourself, right? So he can like explain it to them, they can understand, but they're never gonna agree to, like, if they did this, then obviously they don't have the moral the moral sets to not do it. Which is why someone like Colossal doesn't do it, and which is why someone like Keemstar and Zoe Burger do it.
Right.
So yeah, I don't genuinely believe that they have the moral code that Colossal has.
Oh, yeah. So let's pause for just a second, talk about this a little bit more here. So Gigi, are you saying that you don't believe that they didn't have those ethics or morals, that they're just...
See, so I feel like this is something that I end up brushing against kind of a lot as someone who doesn't always understand social situations. I think it's very different when I know something is unethical and choose to do it anyway, versus when I genuinely don't see the other person's perspective and don't agree with it, and these kinds of things. So like, and I understand that morals, like anything else, might be a matter of the person, but it very much feels like there are still things that like we as a society have decided are acceptable and not acceptable. And in this society, we label a lot of those things like crime or criminal. So if we've decided that is bad, then to me, this is no different than like, you know, shouting fire in a crowded, you know, movie theater. Like there's a reason we don't do it.
Okay.
And like
but here's the thing, there's still people who do it.
All right, so
Ryan.
Yes, and there are people who are actually actively fighting, right, to have it accepted, right? That they believe that a person, no matter what their age is, should be able to make the choice whether or not to have some sort of physical intimacy with somebody else, no matter what their age is, right? There are people who are actively fighting to get that to be accepted,
Mhm.
right? So the thing of it is when you look at a country like the United States, right, which was founded by we'll say has a Christian, we'll say a Christian heritage, right? I think was
Yeah.
probably the easiest way I could go about this, right? They have a
Mhm.
Christian heritage, right? And so they have certain morals, ethics, even laws that were based upon Judeo-Christian beliefs and morals. But over time, because people have levied and successfully fought to have some of those laws and some of those beliefs um, changed, right? But if you still go to the real core Christians, they still don't believe, for example, like in LGBTQ, right? Core Christians, or evangelical Christians, right, still do not agree with it. They think that is immoral. They think that it is an abomination, right? Um, and there used to be actual laws on the books that prevented, um, you know, that from occurring. So um, now I'm not trying to equate with LGBTQ. Let's not go there. I'm just saying that people's morals and ethics, as a society evolves, they change, right? But you'll still have some people that will quote hold on to more traditional values and stuff. So in this situation where Zoe and Keem evidently um, did not see the negative connotations with, alluding to her being a quote pedophile. She didn't see a problem with it. She didn't have problems with it, and Clown having that issue, right? She's just saying, I see that's your morals, that's your ethic, but that's not mine, right? So that's so yeah, I understand exactly what she's saying there. I don't agree with her, and that's the whole thing. Clown didn't either, and that's why Clown was so outraged
Yeah,
at this.
this I feel my brain really coming up on a wall because I can kind of
Mhm.
see what you're saying, but it still feels and I can be very black and white about things. So it might just be something I don't understand.
Mhm.
Like there's kind of a natural logic here, right? If you're playing around with the term pedophile,
Mhm.
then you're taking attention away from actual problems, which is allowing actual pedophiles presumably time to continue to do harm, which is bad because as a society currently we have decided that's bad. So yeah, I don't know at what level this would be okay. And I did also notice that like Tommy just kind of took it as kind of a good job, good one, guys. Like and that also feels kind of like I do feel like Colossal's reaction is the appropriate one. Like, yeah, I feel like this
I
is not
think
okay.
Tommy knows that it's kind of a losing battle to fight someone on something subjective like that. I think he knows that there's no point in actually having a moral debate to try and change their views on what they did.
I don't know that
Yeah.
I don't know that the point
Yeah.
would be
You
to
can't.
debate their views. I mean, it kind of feels like if you really see it that way, and I don't think they do, which is the other thing. I think they're both full of shit. And I think who and how Keemstar is now proves that he was full of shit in this. There's still people that are going to hear you, and like even if they thought it was fine, might actually like second think as to why it's not fine. Like I get that a lot of people are like, oh, you're not doing anything by talking about this on a podcast or whatever it is. But honestly, that's how sometimes we hear certain interesting ideas, and it makes us stop and think about things. I'm having that argument.
I think the general public at large knew that this was wrong, though. That was the general understanding. But let me ask
Okay.
you a question by giving you an example, right?
Go for
So, back in the day, I was sparingly hit as a child whenever I did something wrong, right? And
Mm-hmm.
at that time, that was normal to me. The first couple of years of my adult life, when I saw someone hitting their child for doing something wrong, I didn't think anything of it because that had been like the norm to me. And obviously, I knew it's never okay to hit someone, so I kind of had an idea of why it would be bad, but it just didn't really I just didn't really care about it. Now my morals have changed, and when I see someone hitting their kid, I go up and I beat their ass like on the street. Do you not have
Mm-hmm.
something where, or similar to that, where it might have been like something that you morally didn't really register or just morally didn't really care about until later in life? Because that's sort of what I think it was for Keemstar. The way he's changed.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think for me, I also got spanked a bit as a kid. But I would say spanked, and I know that this is not a thing we do today. I still don't really, I don't hate my parents for it. I think it was fine. I don't remember being scarred from it or anything. I think there are better ways now, and we know better, so we should do better. But I don't look back. You're correct that I don't on that and go, oh my god, my parents were horribly abusive because they spanked me when I was a kid. But I also think that like there were things that always felt really wrong, and so you could say that, but I don't know if Keemstar had already had his child at that time, but also her, like, is that, I mean, I guess when you're getting called every terrible name in the book, what's one more, right? And maybe that's the perspective, and that I could see, but I don't know, it just reads like I don't know, inhuman in a way, like damage, like, yeah, maybe that's what it was. Maybe she was getting so much internet hate at this time that, like, yeah, sure, call me a because you've called me everything else, which, considering how people talk about women on the internet sometimes, I could see that. But
that's the
yeah,
thing, right?
I don't know.
I know probably, and this is where we can agree. I know that probably
Yeah.
Keemstar and Zoe, I don't know about Zoe, she was kind of a dumb, but I know at least Keemstar was probably aware that this was not generally morally okay to do, and there probably could be moral repercussions, but because he personally didn't care about morals at the time, or at least not those morals, he was allowing himself to do it. And it's the same thing with seeing people hit their children when I was younger, right? At the time, even though I knew you probably shouldn't hit your children, I really didn't give a right? But now I do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's
Right.
the change that Keemstar has gone through. Your morals and ethics just do change depending on conversations and experience or whatever, right? But when you're arguing at this time with Keemstar, where money and entertainment and whatever is king, it is kind of a losing battle to fight with him about ethics and morals.
Well, one of the things to also keep in mind, Gigi, is one, you're
2023
looking at
glasses. Yeah,
this
I know.
2023 glasses back,
Yeah.
into 2016 here. That's the first thing. The second thing is to also keep in mind that this episode is what led to the
It
breakup of
combines
this
things,
podcast.
obviously.
There was things
I think
along
it's
the way, of
important to
course,
mention
right?
that
But this,
Colossal wasn't invited to Keemstar's Christmas party, and that's probably why.
Well, I'd be pretty mad if I wasn't invited to Keemstar's Christmas party.
Yeah.
Or
And then
Keemstar
also
has
the
great
fact that
parties.
Oliver is like a greedy fuck
But,
and he wanted 33%.
And that's fine, and I'm still gonna make these views.
But this is with a serious concept like.
What can I do? Do you
When
think he came to me
people accuse
first?
others
Did
of being
Keemstar
called
come
a
to me
pedophile
first?
in the
Ask me if he
future.
could call me a No, he did not. That's fine. I just bandied back and I did what I could.
I'm so confused here. Like, you're making it out like you've kind of trolled the internet together, and like you're all part
And
of.
we did!
And see, that's where the narrative starts to fall, that Keemstar and
Oh.
Zoe have been spinning
Yeah.
where they said it was a work.
yeah,
Because it seems like it really wasn't
yeah.
with some of this conversation in mind.
I don't think it initially was, but I think they decided after, because here's the deal. Keemstar put that out there, right? And here's the thing. Once you put something out on the internet, it's never ever gone, right? It's never gone. And so this proverbial cat, as it were, was out of the bag. And so to try to mitigate, because here's the thing. I remember this causing such a dust up. I mean, there were people who were going hard at Keemstar over this. I mean, brutally hard. And and so I think he kind of reached out to Zoe. I think they kind of, I think he kind of, oh yeah, I was just playing whatever and yada yada yada. And I think she's, oh yeah, we'll do this because this will be good, da 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 da. And then like I say, it. But like, Seth is 100% right. Right there, Zoe tips the hand that says, this was not a pre-work deal. This was not a thing where he came to me and says, hey, you know what? Let me accuse you of being and for yucks, and we'll work this stuff, because I kind of agree with what Gigi, who in their right mind ever really truly wants to be labeled a for yucks. Keemstar was semi-canceled because he falsely accused RS Glory and Gold, Tony Winchester, of being a convicted that was on Twitch and was streaming RuneScape, right? And they had it completely totally wrong. And and to basically, with Tony was on his deathbed, it was still coming back at Keemstar. There were still people when Tony was dying because of cancer and other health issues. They were still coming at Keemstar because of those allegations from clear back in 2016. Keemstar said that he and Tony actually spoke before he died, and he was able to kind of finally, I guess, put everything to peace or to rest. But that was I think Tony passed away, was it in 2022 maybe? But yeah, so that's 6 years. It was 6 years of that constantly hounding Keemstar, right? So
It's an interesting thought. I don't
Anyway.
think, even with cunning taking you so far, I don't think Keemstar specifically did this to take away that power
Yeah.
of that word. But it's kind of interesting to see him doing that after he falsely accused someone of being a.
What I
was the
said,
question? Oh,
Clown,
to him.
and I'm going to be very exact here. What I said is, if a male did the same thing that Zoe Berger did on YouTube, he would be considered a. So, is Zoe Berger a pedophile? That question right there was brilliant, because it was very, very boring time
And I called you
on
out
YouTube.
for it in my video.
It was very boring, and that
I'm so
question right
confused.
there
You're making
sparked
it
so
sound
much
like it was a
conversation.
scheme, and you're taking credit for the scheme. But if you
How
just
could
meant
we
for
not?
sake
When
of
he's the one who
time,
called me
and
a
now you
pedo.
just kind
How
of want
could
to
we not?
retract
being
it.
the greatest entertainer of
Hey,
our
Clown,
generation.
was the Blair
we
Witch
are literally
Project a
debating this
scheme?
right now.
Was the Blair Witch Project a scheme?
Come back down.
What?
Okay, so this is never elaborated upon in the episode, but I think I understand what Tommy was trying to say here that Oliver didn't quite get, and that is the Blair Witch Project, when it came out, the movie was sold as actual found footage, and
Right.
everyone
yeah.
involved obviously
Yes.
knew that it wasn't, but people outside didn't.
It's like they opened the can of worms, and then the worms started crawling everywhere, and they're like, "Oh shit, we got to do something to try to control the worms." And that's when they went into the DMs, and you know that because of what
Well,
Zoe
that
said,
and
right?
Keemstar showboating
She
like
said,
a
"Keem-"
motherfucker. He's
well, that's just Keem. That's what Keem does. So, but when she makes that, when she addresses that to Clown, and she says, "I didn't have a choice in Keem tweeting that out. He didn't check with me. He just did it." Right. So, the original tweet, which I'm sure at this point in time is
If it's
lost
not,
to
I'll put it
time,
up.
is okay. The started, boom, and so then he's seen that this thing started gaining traction, was kind of getting away from him. So I'll just say this whole thing, because I don't believe Keem was calculated enough to do this. So I'll do this and we'll do this. No, I think this happened. And then his mind started rushing and running to where, how can I capitalize on this? How can I make money off of this? Because that's where his mind goes, is how to make money on every situation.
So you have to kind of here define, like, when does something become a work, right? Because if the first tweet was just Keemstar without Zoe's involvement, then if the rest of it had his involvement and they were chatting about it and like trying to see how they could get the most benefit of it, then is it a work if some of it is worked but some of it isn't? Like, when does it start to become a work, I think, is the issue.
I think one of these deals, it's kind of one of these deals where sometimes, like in wrestling, you'll have a matchup and you'll think, oh, this is just, it's one of these, one of these, it'll be a wrestling event, right? It could be like just a house show, or what they call a lights out match, which means basically the only ones that see it is the audience. And the two performers will work so well together, and there will be so much reaction from the crowd. They'll say, hey, okay, let's turn. We didn't really see this here. We didn't see this was a whatever. So now let's work this angle. Let's work this. And so it becomes a work, right? After the fact. And essentially, I think that's what this was. I don't think this was necessarily, I think
they're portraying it like from the very beginning they had planned
yeah,
this.
it wasn't.
It was like a work, like in wrestling, where they saw the response to the original tweet and then they worked something out.
Exactly. But it was not something that was orchestrated and planned from the get-go.
right.
Yeah,
Okay, so what do you think of this not having been there in 2016? What's your thoughts on this?
Not having been there, I definitely remember I did not like Keemstar at this time. So whatever he was doing, like if somebody was like, "Oh, he just did a fake pedophile thing," I would have been like, "Yeah, that's fucking Keemstar." Like, what do you want? Shitty people do shitty things, and I would have moved on. For her, I agree. Vapid is the correct word. She really, can we stop making stupid people a lot of money? Like, I really need dumb people to stop having money. Granted, this is 7 years ago now. But like, I just, it's frustrating. And I think Colossal comes off clean in this, in terms of, like, he's upset, and I think I would have also spurred out, quite frankly. Like, if I told somebody, hey, this thing that you did was real shitty, and they were like, yeah, I don't care. Yeah, I don't know. And I get Tommy being like, I'm not touching it because I don't want to. That's fair, I guess. That's his right. So, yeah.
The only thing I have to say in closing is Clown, I'm still waiting for my follow on Twitter, dude. Seriously. Enough playing already.
The only thing I have to say in closing is I hope you fall off and you pass away.
Happen.
Anyway, guys, we hope you enjoyed this new sort of segment thing we're doing. If you did, please like and also subscribe. We're pretty close to hitting that 500 mark. Aren't
Yeah, we're real close.
we? Yeah, so we'd love to hit the 500 mark, and we'd love to do more of these kind of retrospectives. So please like and please subscribe.